So right now I am sitting on Tortuava Beach, which is one of the most secret and hidden beaches in all of Southern California, which is in Laguna Beach.
Damn. Yeah.
We've just parked our car about a 10-minute walk from here. And where is here? We are at the 1,000-step beach entrance. This place is just opposite 9th Avenue on the coastal highway. We are going to try and find Tortuava Beach. Our first hurdle is to tackle the 1,000 steps all the way down the beach. Although they say it's 1,000 steps, but I think it's actually more like 250. So yeah, I'll speak to you when I get down there. So we've just arrived at the bottom of the 1,000 steps. Now we need to look for Tortuava. Reason why it's secret is because you have to wait until the tide is out so that you can then wade your way through the water or some sort of tunnel underneath the rock or something to get to this very special, like, secret hidden beach. You need to be wary that we can't spend too long at Tortuava Beach, otherwise I might get trapped on the beach. In fact, I think we've just arrived. Right, so we've pretty much only just started our day. When we first arrived into Laguna, we went to Coyote Grill. We had the coconut shrimp, which was really delicious. The seafood is actually really fresh out here. Shortly after our lunch, we made our way to 1,000 Step Beach to access this secret Tortuava Beach. I also want to do one hike in the late afternoon, and that is to the very aptly named Top of the World hike. Views are pretty amazing up there. Hopefully you'll be able to find a nice quiet spot there to run through one of my poker sessions earlier last Saturday. Right, so we're just now leaving 1,000 Step Beach. I actually made a mistake. I actually thought this was Laguna Beach. So just want to go to the main beach now, just to at least check it out. So yeah, speak to you when I get to the main beach. Right, so we've just arrived at the main beach of Laguna now, I believe. I can definitely see why this is a really nice beach. Hey. Hiya. You know, people are friendly. People say hello to random strangers. The main beach is actually quite small. It's just like a crescent-shaped beach. So it's the Pacific Coast Highway. There's all the shops and restaurants. You've got like volleyball, you've got basketball courts. And it's just a really nice, chilled up vibes. There's a lot of people just like sitting on the benches, basking in the sunshine. And bearing in mind, this is a weekday afternoon we're talking about. I think Laguna Main Beach is really, really nice. I think this is the beach you want to be at if you come to Laguna Beach. Having checked out Laguna Beach, we're going to go to the trailhead to get to Top of the World. I'll speak to you when I get to the trailhead. All right, so we've just parked up on Canyon Acres Drive, and we just walked like 5-10 minutes through a very quiet and a very quaint little neighborhood before we've now arrived at the trailhead. Let's begin, shall we? So this trail is supposedly a short and difficult one, which sounds quite similar to the Mugu Peak hike that we did last week in Malibu. So yeah, very excited. The objective is within sight in the background there. So surely not much longer now. After a pretty short hike actually, we've made it to the summit of Top of the World. Views are amazing. So last week we just played 3 nights as opposed to our usual 5 nights. I've been pretty exhausted to be honest, playing all this poker and doing all this traveling. So I thought I'd just take an extra couple of days off last week and just play Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Of the 3 sessions, Saturday was actually the most interesting one, and that is the session that I'm going to take you through right now. So this session was quite interesting because most of the hands that I'm going to be going through with you today all pretty much happened like nearly back to back, which was pretty insane. So the very first interesting hand that we played, the action falls to the cutoff, who opens the pot to $20. The button calls, small blind calls, and then we look down in the big blind with King 7 of diamonds. King 7 of the offsuit variety, I lean more towards folding this, but King 7 suited I think is just about strong enough to continue multi-way out of position. So we decide to defend our big blind with a call. We are now 4 ways to the flop, which comes Ace King 7 all hearts. Small blind checks, we check, cutoff checks, and then button puts in the bet of $35. Small blind folds, and action is now on us. So the villain on the button, I think he had about $200 to $300 to start the hand. So not super deep, maybe like 50 or 60 big blinds. I think in this spot, facing this bet multi-way on a monotone board for this sizing as well, folding is out of the question. We are at least calling here, and I think we could raise here, but I think being out of position and given how strong I think villain's betting range is on this board texture multi-way, I kind of lean more towards flatting here rather than bloating the pot. So we decide to make the call, the cutoff folds, and now we are heads up to the turn. And the turn comes an offsuit 3. We continue checking, and then button decides to double barrel for $75. I don't think we can really just call here. If we want to continue. I think if we continue, we should just pretty much put them all in, given we are out of position and we don't really want to play rivers given how dynamic the board is, especially given how much money is left in villain's stack. Felt, to be honest, this was actually quite a tough spot. I don't think I actually hate the fold. I think when villain double barrels, he more likely than not has a range that is stronger than our actual hand. I think if villain checks back, we then have the best hand, i.e. he would have like an ace-x, or maybe he could have like maybe the nut draw with like the king of hearts. But in game, I actually didn't feel like folding, so I just thought I'd just rip it in and hope for the best. So we decided to put them all in, villain snap calls, which means in my head, I pretty much know I'm already beat. I'm gonna need some help here, and the river comes a king. We show our hand, villain shows his hand, pretty much thinking he's already got us beat, which he did, to be fair, because he tabled Queen 9 of hearts for the flopped nuts, and we rivered the boat to win the pot. So yeah, I'm not very proud of this hand, but hey, it is what it is. Right, so just as we were stacking our chips, in literally the very next hand, we were still stacking our chips from the King 7 hand, there is an early position limp, and we look down in the small blind with King Queen offsuit. So we decide to bump it up to $30. The big blind calls, and the early position limper also calls. So we are now 3 ways to the flop, which comes pretty decent. It comes King 9 3, 2 hearts. And we don't have a heart in our hand. We have a pretty clear C bet here. So we bet $35. The big blind folds, and then the early position thinks for a little while, and then she decides to make the call. We are now heads up to the turn, and the turn comes like an offsuit 3, I think. And in this spot, I think we have a pretty clear double barrel. So we size up the double barrel to $90. Villain, again, doesn't think too long before making the call. So we are now going to the river, and I'm just praying for a clean river here so we can fire a 3rd barrel. But the river now comes the 10 of hearts, which is pretty horrific as it now completes flush draws and straight draws such as Queen Jack. Sucks that we can't triple it off here, so we check the river, and villain snap checks back, which is obviously good news, as that means we pretty much have the best hand all the time. So we table our hand, and villain is not too pleased as she showed pocket jacks. So yeah, nice little pot here to continue the momentum.
It shouldn't work like that, because I've already told you I don't.
We are now stacking our chips from the King Queen hand that we won. And as we were stacking our chips, we immediately jump into this very next hand. There is an early position raised to $20, and then we look down on the button at pocket tens. So of course we want to play this hand. I think more often than not in this spot versus an early position open, we want to be flatting tens here rather than 3-betting, as I think there's more value to be had playing this hand in position than 3-betting and playing this hand heads up. So we decide to make the call. The small blind calls and the big blind also calls. We are now 4 ways to the flop, which comes 9, 7, 3 with 2 spades. Pretty good looking flop here for our hand. Action checks to us, and we have a pretty clear bet here. In terms of sizing, I don't think I like sizing up in this spot, as I think we want to be targeting some 9x hands for value, and also denying some equity from some ace king, ace queen, ace jack type hands. Looking at the pot of $90, we settle on a bet of $25. The small blind calls, big blind calls, and the early position raiser folds. So we are now 3 ways to the turn, which comes a brick. Action checks us again, and I think in this spot we have a clear double barrel, and we can still get value from a lot of worse hands here. So we now size up the turn and bet $90. Small blind makes the call and big blind folds. So we are now heads up going to the river card, which comes an offsuit 8. As soon as villain called the turn, he then snap checks in the dark. Generally speaking, when people do this, it generally means they have a hand with showdown value, like a weak 1-pair hand, like a top pair, for example, in this instance, which is not really the type of hand that would ever lead into us on the river. So when the river comes an 8, I definitely want to go for some more value here. I am putting villains squarely on a top pair type hand, or just a 1-pair type hand at most. So with pocket tens here, I think it's very important to go for some more value here and not be too scared to kind of check back and just go to showdown and take the pot down. The question just on sizing, as we definitely do want to get called here. I don't think I want to go for too big of a sizing, so I decided on a value of $125. As it turns out, it was pretty good sizing because villain goes deep into the tank for like a minute or 2 minutes. So after quite a bit of time has passed, villain decides to make the call. So we show our hand knowing pretty much it's good, and villain mucks his cards. In this hand, there is a limp from early position from a short stack. I think she only had like $45 left in her stack. Action folds to the cutoff, who also limps for the $5, and we look down on the button with ace king offsuit. We bump it up to $30, the blinds fold, and then the early position just calls, and that call was enough to entice the cutoff, who also makes the call. So we are now 3 ways to the flop, which comes pretty good. It comes ace 6 7 with 2 hearts. Action checks to me, and of course we are going to c-bet. Against these 2 opponents, I decide to size up my c-bet to $50. Early position commits the rest of her stack in, and then cutoff, who has like $365 left in her stack, then pretty much snap jams the rest of her stack in. Versus this opponent, didn't really like seeing this jam, obviously. As soon as that happened, I kind of regretted my decision to size up my c-bet to $50, and kind of, yes, I was kind of thinking I should have bet like $20 or $30 instead, so that I could at least give myself a better chance to get away from this, as crazy as that may sound. But anyhow, as we decided to size up the c-bet, when she then jams her stack in, I'm just going to snap call this. So we make the call, and then the dealer puts out an offsuit queen on the turn, and then the river comes another 6. So I kind of feel like I kind of like this river card, I guess, given it kind of reduces some more full house combos. But unfortunately, villain showed ace 6 of clubs for a flop 2 pair that's now rivered a boat. Not very happy with the way I played this hand. I think if we had bet smaller on the flop, I don't think villain would just snap jam 365, I don't think. But even if she did, we would have given ourselves a much better chance to make the fold. So in this last interesting hand of my Saturday night session, there is 2 limps from early mid position, and we look down in the low jack with king queen offsuit. We decide to raise it up to $25, and only the 2 limpers make the call. So we are now 3 ways to the flop, which comes king 10 6 with 2 diamonds, and we don't have a diamond in our hand. So when Ashton checks us, we decide to go for a low frequency check back. I think I like mixing these hands into our check back range, especially when we don't have a diamond. We can easily call bluffs and semi bluffs on the turn and bluff catch on the river. On the turn, the dealer puts an offsuit 5. Now the early position now tanks for a bit before then sliding a bet of $75. The other middle position limper makes the fold, and now action's now back on us. Of course, we are going to be continuing here. I don't think I mind raising here at some frequency. I think that play would be very nice. We could raise here and then kind of freeze the action on the river and check back. Or alternatively, I also don't mind just calling here and then seeing what develops on the river. We can then easily value bet ourselves if we were check to, or we could bluff catch. So we decide on the latter and we decide to make the call. So we are now heads up to the river, which comes an offsuit 3. So the front door flush bricks out. Action's now on the villain, and then he now goes deep into the tank. At this stage, I'm actually praying to see a bet here, as I really think I'm good here a vast majority of the time. And the villain then takes a while thinking about how much to bet before settling on $160. I don't know what it was, but I think my kind of feeling by seeing how he was putting the bet in and kind of just looking at him in general, I wasn't quite sure after the way I saw him put his bet in. So I started studying the board really hard here, and I was really thinking what bluffs or what semi bluffs actually completed on the river here, as I think most of these players would actually just give up their misdraws. I was like, well, queen jack bricks out, flush draw bricks out, like a 7-8 bricks out. I really don't see what villain has here. So after tanking for quite a while, I decide to make the call, and then villain says you're good, and then just shows his hand. So I immediately show my hand, which I'm thinking I've always got the winner, right? But then he tabled 4-7 offsuit for a river straight, which is fair enough. You got the best hand. Just a bit confused about why you would say you got it.
I thought you said you're good.
Oh, yeah.
No, I thought you said you're good.
Yeah.
That's why I showed. But you got straight. So.
Right, so that concludes all of the most interesting hands from the session that I played last Saturday. We bought in the game for $2,000 and we cashed out for like $2,600 odd. As I mentioned, it was a short week of poker this week. We only played 3 sessions as opposed to our usual 5. We ended the week up about $700. Next week, we are going to be playing some 5-10, so hopefully we can play some more interesting hands and also, more importantly, some much bigger pots. Peace.